Hey everyone, and welcome back to Mo on the Mic. Today we are doing part two of our Taylor Swift episode, so let's get moving.
Yeah, so I think you kind of discussed everything you wanted to say about Folklore, and for me, it's one of my favorite albums. So I knew that with the limited time we had last time, I was like, I'm not going to be able to rapid fire get through everything I love about the album. I don't even, so I'm like a new Swiftie. I don't like the term Swiftie, but I only started like looking back on her music when the Eras tour started, and I realized how many songs I already knew, and then I was like, oh, I may as well just do a deep dive. Um, so I wasn't there for the release of Folklore, and I know that that was like quite a fundamental moment within the fandom, especially having it like back to back with Evermore and it all happening in the pandemic. I know that that was like a big thing, um, but I wasn't there for it. However, looking back at Folklore, and I don't even know why it's my favorite album. Like, if you were to put it in front of me and like explain it, I'd go, no, I wouldn't be into that. Like, that's not my thing. But I think the love triangle is so interesting. I think songs like Last Great American Dynasty,
Yeah.
stunning. There is just something so like peaceful about the album that like you can literally put on in any mood, in any setting, and it's just like nice background music.
Yeah.
It's up there. It's on par with me for with 1989. I just those two albums are like my children. I love them.
Yes. Folklore, like I understand what you're saying because as much as Taylor Swift has been a soundtrack for me growing up, Folklore and Evermore around about that time is really when I got deep and you can call it being a Swiftie. Again, I understand what you mean. I also struggle with that term because I feel like there's a lot of connotations with that. Um, but yeah, you're so right about just being able to put that album on. And for me, I think it's just like the chilled, whimsical feeling of it that you don't have to like be in a certain mood. It's just there to support you. So Evermore, another album that we got in 2020. Um, my favorite track of that is Willow. That one just the whole way that it's performed live, which I never got to see it live, but watching it in the Eras Tour documentary, it's just so theatrical. I love it. So, what's your favorite moment from Evermore?
Mine, so off of Willow, that is like my best friend's favorite song off of that album. When we watched the Eras Tour movie, um, neither of us are like huge Evermore fans, but it was funny because in the movie she goes era by era and there's the little title cards and stuff, and the Evermore title card came up and we were like, "Ugh, maybe it's toilet break time, whatever." But Willow started playing and we had the Taylor Swift bucket of popcorn, the little Eras Tour cups and stuff, everything with us. My best friend quite literally threw the popcorn and went, "Oh my God, it's Willow." And I was like, girl, I thought you didn't like this album. So, alas, it wasn't toilet break time because turns out she likes the album very much. I still am very undecided on it. However, I do think Gold Rush is just so stunning. I think there's something about the pacing of the song. I think the kind of reflection in I just think is so, so pretty. But the album as a whole, there's some like real standout moments, but then I find the rest of it is quite that I don't think the standout moments are enough for me to make me enjoy the album, if that makes sense. I enjoy the standout moments, and then that's it.
Yeah, I understand. Like, again, I struggle with feeling like sometimes I'm bullying one album because it's played less than the others. Evermore is definitely the bullied album in my catalog. I'm like, I'm very sorry, but there's a few songs that I'm just like, I love this. This is very pretty, but I don't find myself reaching for it. But
Mhm.
also because we got Folklore and Evermore so soon, after each other, a lot of that gets confused in my mind. So
Yeah.
I I really have to like check which songs on which. And so I more have the tendency to look up the individual song from one of those albums and then play it rather than reach for one of those albums, which is kind of sad, but
Yeah,
yeah.
like it's got some really beautiful moments. Like off the top of my head, like obviously I said about Gold Rush, love her. Champagne Problems, stunning. Tolerate It, stunning. But
Yeah.
like I can't even name half of the songs on the album. I can tell you that I really, really don't like Closure. There is
Yeah.
just something about that intro that immediately puts me off. And then I'm just like, because if you can't grasp me in the first bit of the song, I'm just like, why would I listen to the rest of it if I don't like the start of it? So, anyways, sorry, Swifties.
Look, the thing about music is that you do not have to like everything. You know, you can listen to an album and think that some of it's good and the rest is not for you, but you're not going to relate to every song. You're not going to relate to every story. And I think that's something important, not just in the Swiftie fandom, but in every fandom, that you're allowed to have an opinion without being cancelled on Twitter. So this next era is a really important one because it's when Taylor started to really reclaim her masters. So Fearless Taylor's version. This was an important moment.
Yeah, the idea of Taylor's versions and stuff, which I know we'll get into properly later, I think is phenomenal. But like I said, I only really started doing a deep dive after the Eras tour kind of started. So I wasn't there for a lot of the Taylor's versions. In fact, I think 1989 was the first one that I experienced,
Mm,
which is crazy. But Fearless, yeah, I just like I said in like part one that Fearless was like the first album that I remember properly of hers, of like knowing that I liked the songs on it. So having Taylor's version and having the like comparison, I think is actually really sweet. And the addition of the vault tracks, like, oh, I just think it's lovely. But I could have sworn that I knew Mr. Perfectly Fine
mm.
before.
Wait,
But then I don't know if that's because
that's a vault track?
I think so.
I have to fact check that because I
That's what I'm.
I swear I grew up with that one.
I can't even spell Mr. Perfect.
If
Yeah,
it if it ends up being
that's
a
fair.
vault track, it is.
Go to album. Yeah, it is.
What?
That's what I mean. Like I could have sworn I already knew that song, but then I was like, oh, maybe it's just because I came into the like fan space so late that I'd already
Mm.
heard it a couple of years ago, and just remembered that I heard it a couple of years ago. But I could have sworn I like knew the song.
But yeah, I could have sworn that that one wasn't a vault track because it feels so nostalgic.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's just her. Like she's just so good at capturing the essence of the album. Like obviously she says that they were songs that she wrote at the time and then just didn't make the cut,
Mm.
but it's even like giving it that refresh and like just kind of rebranding it a little bit even just ties in so well with the nostalgia and with the time that it was first released. She just manages to like balance that really well.
Yeah, exactly. And Fearless is such a nostalgic album. It just feels so like I would say honestly, even the first version of it felt so probably not nostalgic when it first like entered the world, but it just felt like something that was going to be such a classic.
Mhm.
So to see that the re-record like really did it justice was a very nice moment. So next we have Red, Taylor's version, and this one I remember all too well. um, I actually remember watching the All Too Well um, mini film as it
Mhm.
came out. We again, I don't recommend following in my footsteps when it comes to school. Um, we ditched assembly, my friend group, and we set up, I can't remember how we did it, but it was basically like projector and it may have been someone's phone or something, but we projected it onto the back of the school building and we sat there and watched it and we like pulled out like popcorn and drinks from the school bag. Um, again, you probably should not follow in my footsteps, but honestly, it was like even because obviously this was before the Eras tour, it was the first moment where I felt like, wow, Taylor's music really brings people together because I'm talking like it wasn't just the girls and in the friend group, like their boyfriends and like it was more it just grew and the group outside watching it behind the school instead of going to assembly, the group just grew and grew and grew. And it was such like a beautiful moment. Yeah.
That's cute. I, yeah, still wasn't here for Red Taylor's version. I mean, obviously, I've listened to it now. I only watched the All Too Well short film for the first time last year. I think Sadie Sink is an incredible actor, so
Mm.
that was like bound to be good. Um, and I do think the 10-minute version is so much better than the 5-minute version. But I think it's because I wasn't here for the release, like I wasn't a huge fan of Taylor early on. I wasn't even really there for the release of Red. So I didn't know the 5-minute version until after I already knew the 10-minute version. So I think that difference, like knowing the 10-minute version as the version and then going back to the 5-minute version really threw me off because I then went to continue singing the song and it had moved on and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a part in All Too Well that scratches my brain just right and it's the oh, hold on, let me get the lyric. It's nothing about the music changing. It is literally just a lyric and how she says a word. But I can't remember the first half of the lyric. I can only remember the second half, which is and how it glistened as it fell,
Oh,
where she's on about the snow falling. Like, fine.
yes.
But how she says and how it glistened as it fell, stunning. Just like her cadence in her voice as she sings that part is just beautiful.
Yeah, like specifically the fell part, how it, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful song because you feel every bit of emotion in every one of the lyrics. Like,
Hmm.
and also I feel like you can picture your own situation so clearly with those lyrics, you
Yeah, for
know?
sure. But she is so articulate that you can just put yourself in her songs.
Yeah. I mean, her songwriting's having a moment because if this is going to tell you how far in advance we record things, but just in this last week, she got the songwriting award, which was it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I believe it was.
Yeah, it was a Hall of Fame. I can't remember which one.
I want to say it was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What I will say is if you go read our articles, you'll see what it was because we did mention it. um, Plugging myself there. But yes, All Too Well is the 10-minute version is the standout for the re-records. It's what made the Red era like so prominent at that time. Again, I wasn't there for the original Red era, um, but that's what really makes Red Taylor's vision stand out.
Yeah, I think my favorite was always the Lucky One, but also around that time was when she did Safe and Sound for the Hunger Games, which is one of my all-time favorite Taylor songs.
That is really good. I love that. So next we have Midnights, and this era I remember just being so just dreamlike, I guess I'd say. It was also a phase of my life where everything felt like a dream. Well, everything felt hazy. Like I understand that's a pun, but I was sort of moving through the world only half aware of what was going on. And so Midnights felt like the perfect soundtrack to that. Um, I can't even tell you what my favorite song is because Midnights is just absolutely amazing. Um, but I do think Mastermind, I remember sitting there and giggling and being like, this is just so snarky and witty. And well, not even snarky, but mm, just witty and hilarious, and I love that one. That definitely stands out. Um, I love the music video for Bejeweled. Um, yeah, I could just go on and on, actually. Like if you give me the time, I will probably go through 90% of the songs on that album.
In my opinion, Midnight is the start of the downfall of her writing.
I can see that, but
Um,
still love it.
I love The Great War and I love Would Have, Could Have, Should Have.
That one crushes
Again,
me.
there are some like real highlights on there, but then I think this is where she starts getting a bit cheesy with her lyrics. Um, and then that also kind of flows into the Torture Poets department a little bit, and then like heavily flows into the life of a showgirl, which we will talk about later. But yeah, the Great War would have, could have, should have, and then when she released "You're Losing Me," which was obviously written at the time.
Mm,
Um, so I feel like I can confidently group those together. But yeah, I think it did very well on the Eras tour. I think it worked stunningly as a closing part of the tour. But yeah, like songs like Karma and stuff, I was just a bit like, "Mm,
mm,
okay, I can see where you're going with the writing, and I don't love that. But who am I to say that? I don't bloody write songs. I probably am a terrible songwriter. I've never even tried, so I can't say for certain if I am or not. But I can tell you for a fact I've not made a living like Taylor has out of it. So
yeah,
but yeah, there are some real good songs on there, but then there are some real misses as well, in my opinion.
I'm gonna be really controversial here. Um, I kind of like a bit of the cheesy stuff, not all the time, because I think
Mhm.
that some of the best Taylor songs are the ones where the lyrics are very deep and very like open diary entry like. Um, that being said, I do really like the cheesy songs. Um, oh, but there's only a certain amount of cheese that I will tolerate. Like I Karma, I didn't really like, and the re-record I liked even less because I swear it did not feel like they were both in the studio at the same time. It kind of felt like I'm just going to record this and then we're going to cut it in and slap it in, and it's two songs in one. Actually, I think it does need to be said. There are some times that collaborations happen and you can really tell that it's like, okay, we love the song and then we went back in the studio and we recorded it together and like made it a new thing versus like this artist that's up and coming really wants to like be a part of this moment, and so they recorded something and cut it in and it's they weren't in the studio together.
I hate Ice Spice's version, but I don't particularly like her as an artist anyway, so
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah, I get that. Yeah, I think that the Midnight's era was something that I took a lot of inspiration from visually. Um, it was something that then influenced a lot of my photo shoots, um, most of which is now in the archives because it was around about the Midnight's era that I was trying to go through every era of Taylor Swift, and I had a group of girls, and we were going to make a photo book of like looks that were not so much like as if we were trying to recreate an Eras Tour poster, but looks that were loosely based on if each of the eras was like a different girl.
Mhm.
Um, I never finished the project, so it's all in the archive. And now that the life of a showgirl's out, I need to get back to that. But Midnight's was the most fun to mess with, in terms of creating that book because it just I don't know. I love that era. Like visually, I love it more than the sound, but I also love the sound.
Yeah, I do think visually it's like I think the darker tones, but with like the glitter and stuff, like very much a night sky, like a
Yeah.
starry night sky. It is very pretty visually with all the glitters and all the blues and the purples and stuff. I just think it's so pretty.
Mm.
But yeah, there are some hits and some misses for me on that album, and that's where I start. Which is odd because, like I say, I was a fan around the Eras tour, and obviously Midnight's was the album that was released before she announced the Eras tour because of the whole pre-sale stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so like my time as a like Swiftie is very nostalgic. Like I much prefer her earlier work. I much prefer all the stuff that kind of happened before Midnights. There are some real highlights on Midnights and some real highlights on the Tortured Poets department. But like I said, that's where I start feeling the lyric changes. And then I'm like, kind of start clocking out a little bit.
So after Midnights, we got Speak Now Taylor's version. And this one was when you really realized, oh, okay, it's not just about like well, it's not just a re-record, it's a reclaim, because this is the one where she famously changed a lyric. And I missed the original. I listened to the Taylor's version, um, because I felt this like real strong like sense of betrayal if I listened to anything else. Um, but I sang the other lyric over top of it. Like, I'm sorry. Um, but this one here, this is quite controversial as well. I felt like some of the vault tracks didn't feel like they were from the Speak Now era. Timeless is the one that I kind of okay, I don't really like that song anyway, but it didn't really feel like it was Speak Now era. And again, feel free.
Timeless to me, Timeless to me feels like a Fearless song.
Yeah, yeah, there we go. Exactly. That is how I feel. I'm like, it just, but I suppose because of that nostalgic feeling of Fearless, that's why Timeless feels like it should be on Fearless. But also just like, I don't know, I can't explain it. It just didn't, it felt really random for that to be the final. You kind of leave that album going, am I listening to the same album? Um,
I really enjoyed Castles Crumbling.
that
I
one
think
I
that's one
love.
of overall, even like all of her vault tracks, I think that is one of the strongest vault tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one that got very big very fast. When Emma falls in love, I did. That is from the Vault. Yes. When Emma falls in love, I have never known how to feel about
Hmm.
because it doesn't. Hmm. I want to say it doesn't feel finished. It just feels like there's something slightly missing in it, and I cannot explain what it is. But I just listen to it. And I'm like, there's something else there that's not. It's not in the final track. That's just how it
I'm
feels.
I don't like that song, but I also can't really say why. I
Yeah.
feel like for me it feels like and like she's obviously well known for her like diary entry type songs, but it feels like such a personal because she's like personally mentioning a friend by name and talking about this friend's life and how she falls in love and the kind of people she falls in love with. I'm like, where is anyone in your audience going to relate to this that isn't this one individual specific person?
It
Because you're
feels
like,
too personal,
yeah,
which
in
is
my opinion.
which is really weird because I love a lot of the songs that feel like diary entries, but that almost feels like less like a diary entry and actually like she's writing the story, like she's writing what the characters do. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I've always felt is because songs where she's like, I, me, this is how I feel about this relationship.
Hmm.
You can personalize it to yourself, but like Emma's doing this, Emma's doing that, and you can't really
Yeah.
place yourself in that spot quite the same.
Yeah, and like and that's the thing is like I as a listener put myself in songs and like I don't know who Emma is. So I can't listen to the song and go like, "Oh, I know this girl. I know how she feels. I've seen how she falls in love, so I get this." I don't know who she is. I don't know how she feels. I don't know who she falls in love with, what traits she falls in love with. I don't know how they feel about her. I'm just like, why am I here listening to this song?
Yeah.
This isn't for me. This is for your friend Emma. You should probably send it to her.
1989 Taylor's version. This one I loved because sometimes you have albums where you've got two sides. For example, my favorite is Ashley Norman's Blood on the Drums. You've got the thorns, then the roses. This one, I like to say, um, the original feels like the city, New
Mhm.
York City, and then you've got the B side, which is the beach. Um, and especially she really did that well visually. She really did that well with the vault tracks. I actually did take and sit on the beach and listen to them. And I love the vault tracks because unlike the previous era that we've just spoken about, um, the vault tracks, you could have told me that all of that was recorded the same day and it was like um it was like receiving the B-sides for an album like ages later. But
Yeah.
that's what I loved. Like that really did have the archival feeling of preserving an album.
Hmm.
Um, Now that we don't talk, I love that one. I loved screaming that because it's not. I don't even have a story that sort of relates to that. But I love like that line. I don't have to pretend I like acid rock because I
Hmm.
think we can all relate to some relationship where you sort of like pretend or amp up some interest just to like keep someone else interested.
Yeah.
Or which song was it? That song that's like, it must have been Stay Don't Go, was it? Where it's like, I think about jumping off a very tall something just to see you come running and say the one thing I've been wanting, but no.
Yeah.
That
That's Say
one,
Don't Go.
that it paints such a strong, strong picture that I love it because you can imagine just that like toe over the edge. Um, I this album already had Clean on it, but I really loved watching the Taylor's version lyric video for that because there was something about that where it changed the song for me all of a sudden, where it's always had that personal meaning to me. But then when I watched that, I went, oh, but you can reclaim that story. You can reclaim that because that lyric video felt that way. Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
I yeah, Clean, like Safe and Sound is one of my top like all-time favorite Taylor Swift songs, always has been. Vault track wise, Slut is my favorite. I saw the title and was like, that's got to be like a banger. Like that has to be a banger. And then I heard it and was just filled with dread. But I enjoy that feeling when it comes to songs.
yeah,
But yeah, Slut is just I think it's so well written and I think it's so because obviously she was dating Harry at the time of this whole thing. Um, and I think where he was at his height of fame and she also was, but like in a different way than she is now.
yeah,
That I think to have a relationship with two really famous people and to have twice the amount of pressure and like twice the amount of spotlights on you, and he was still quite young at the time as well. Um, that I think having a song like Slut where she's outwardly saying they're already online bullying me, they're already doing all of this, and they're already making me feel like this. But like I may as well just continue because I like it and I like you and I like the relationship we've built and they're gonna do this regardless. And
yeah,
I thought that was really quite cool because it almost like addresses the people who were mean and horrible to her, whilst also addressing her partner being like, I'm gonna do it anyway.
yeah.
I just think it's quite poignant and I think it's quite I just love that song a lot.
Yes, exactly. Like got lovesick all over the bed. That was really a standout line. And also, what I will say, like on that point that you've just made, is quite nasty of me, but one of my favorite things about 1989 Taylor's version is how much the Harry Styles fans hate it. Because a lot of them are like, leave our boy Harry alone. yes, I love Harry Styles. I love his music, but there's something refreshing actually about Taylor Swift being so honest in those lyrics. Because if you take a step back, no pop boy is perfect. No pop boy is the perfect boyfriend. You know, there are some of them who are quite lovely, who appear nice online and everything from what the moments that you're seeing. And a lot of people who are fans of both Taylor and Harry or just fans of Harry are like, Taylor really went too harsh on him. So she should. They are
She didn't even really go
bangers.
that harsh.
No, no, she didn't. She could have said a lot worse. And honestly, I would have supported her if she did. Like, I just think there was a lot more honesty in some of those Volt tracks of like, um, that relationship really, how she writes about it feels like you're a nice man, but like sometimes I wish you'd just fight for me. And I think it's
Mhm.
really refreshing just to like hear her say that in the songs.
1989 Taylor's version, I think, is my favorite Taylor's version because 1989 is one of my favorite albums. But I think even the Vault tracks as a whole, as well, I think are some of the strongest.
Mm. Yeah, that was the first Taylor's version where I was like, I need to have it. Like there were some other Taylor's versions where I'm like, it's what I'm going to listen to over the other albums, but I didn't sort of feel that pull to like go to the store and immediately buy it. 1989 Taylor's version, I was trying to get my hands on super duper quickly. So then next we had the Tortured Poets Department and the Tortured Poets Department, the anthology. And when that second one dropped, I was shocked because I already felt like we had quite a lot of songs and they weren't exactly short songs either. So when it all dropped, I'm not gonna lie, I was so overwhelmed. I still am very overwhelmed. Um, I really have to like psych myself up to listen to all of it. Um, I think it has some standout moments, but I just when it first came out, I was like kind of like this is great. And now I'm just like I'm just not that depressed and I just don't want to be that depressed. Um yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said about Midnight, so this is where like the writing I feel like kind of took a shift. Um, Especially because a lot of the Tortured Poets department was quite heavily, obviously, about Matty Healy, when everyone thought it would be about Joe Alwyn.
Yep, that
Um,
that was funny.
which is it's an interesting move for sure. And I'm not one to judge how she deals with her grief because I wasn't there. I don't know the relationships, whatever. But I did think that, a 6 or 7 year long relationship would have had more airtime than an on and off fling that was never really that serious. But alas, that's the album that really, like you said, it was overwhelming. There was already quite a lot of songs in the first one, and then there wasn't much time to even digest those songs before we got an extra whole album's worth of extra songs. Standouts for me would be So Long London, for sure. Hold on, there's like 30 songs, so I don't remember all
I
of
know.
them.
I'm gonna have to bring that up again because I still don't think I've actually listened to all of it.
So Long London is a standout for me. I like My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. Fresh Out the Slam was pretty good. Florida was insane live. The fact that she did that at London Night 8 was crazy. That was crazy. My best friend's favorite is Guilty as Sin. That's kind of the only song she likes on that album, so period. I Can Do It With a Broken Heart is I liked it much more when it first came out, and now I come back to it and I'm like, oh, okay. This is where I start really not enjoying some of her writing because the songs on this album that are about Travis, I think are like the weakest songs.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then we go into Life of a Showgirl. Anyways,
Yeah. I
Cassandra and The Bolter are also good songs. I would say out of the 31, I like maybe 10. and then I tolerate maybe like another 10, and then there's like the last bunch that I'm just like,
Yeah. My favorites were my favorite song of this album is Thank You Amy because I had a girl who was called Amy and it all lines up. The lyrics
oh,
you could tell me was it's spelt the same. Um even though she's reached out to apologize, that really hurt what she did. Um and so I know that Amy is not Amy. But for me, it is. It's about the same way. And I loved it because now that I've grown up, I can appreciate, just as Taylor Swift does, that, yeah, sure, I wouldn't have had any of this career if I wasn't absolutely like horrendously bullied and sort of kicked out of what I was doing. Um, and it made me sort of pivot and go into what I'm doing now. That being said, what that girl did to me was so horrible. And I know it's nowhere near the actual story behind Thank You, Amy, but it's so deeply personal to me. And as I've said with a lot of these songs, my favorites are ones that feel like they were written about my situation. So that is my favorite. Um, and The Prophecy, I also really liked. Um, that was devastating. Yeah. But other
that
than
one's
that, nothing really stood out for me because
yeah,
just
like
so much is so overwhelming.
yeah. And I think where you've got such a theme of just melancholy throughout the entire album, you kind of really do have to like sit with it. You can't just casually listen to it. You kind of have to be in that mood to be able to sit through the entire thing because it is so long and it is so miserable
Yeah,
that you have to really just be in it.
yeah, exactly. And that is just it's something that I can't sit with one emotion for too long. And because of how many songs we have that are all that same emotion, it just immediately became instant dread. Like, yeah. And that's I'm not gonna even like apologize for that because I don't think you have to feel bad about that. There are some fans who are like, you can't say that you're a Swiftie if you don't listen to the Tortured Poets Department. Actually, yes, you can.
I
Actually,
don't call
yes, you
myself a
can.
Swiftie anyway.
No,
Couldn't think of anything worse.
yeah, I don't like any of the connotations with that. I'm just like,
Mm.
I listen to her music. I listen to her music. I appreciate most of it. What I do really appreciate about this era though was with the Eras tour when she brought Travis on stage. I thought was really cute and really funny, and that's kind of when I was like, yeah, this relationship is the one. Like this is something special here. Um,
Yeah,
that's
I do
kind of
think it's cute how much they've like showcased each other. Like neither of them are trying to hide anything or whatever about this relationship per se. Obviously there's still going to be private bits and hidden bits as there should be, but a lot of relationships we see as onlookers in mainstream media is very much like a glimpse here and there until like a wedding, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Whereas this has been quite heavy quite early on with all of the public interactions and the bringing him out on stage and her going to his games and all this stuff. I do think that's very like nice how confident they are in
mm,
each other's presence. I think that's lovely.
yeah, but it's also something that I've felt like unfortunately has built a culture is that because they're so open, a lot of people have been so pushy. Um,
Mm.
but also I almost wonder if that's slightly on purpose because in a lot of previous relationships, um, that Taylor Swift has written about or has, you know, been in publicly to public knowledge, there was instant criticism on how other people perceived um, those interactions. And so I almost wonder if some of that was like, especially that moment on stage was very deliberate to say, like, this is my man, and see, he is really supporting me.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah. So I guess that brings us to our final one, the life of a showgirl.
Yeah, so I will say about the life of a showgirl, like I've said about the Torture Perks department, and like I said about Midnights. Midnights was the start of where I felt the cheesiness coming in, and the life of a showgirl showcases that so heavily. And I was just so. The thing is, what got me is the visuals around it are stunning, and it
Mm,
painted such a picture. And then the album came out, and it was nothing like the visuals, like the songwriting and the production and just everything on the album sonically was nothing like the album visually. Like when you see the visuals for that album and the outfits and the feathers and everything, you expect a certain vibe. And then to have the album come out and it wasn't like at all that vibe. I think the closest we get to that vibe is the song, The Life of a Showgirl,
yeah,
with the kind of like the big band type esque vibe. Um, but yeah, I just think the lyrics are kind of all over the place, a little bit messy. Very specifically with songs like Ruin the Friendship threw me off. Like it was almost romantic, but not really. And
that's
then
that's
suddenly
the one
halfway
where
through
it's
the
like
song,
is that the one where it's like Abigail calls with the bad news?
yeah, and then like halfway through the song, someone's dead, and it's like, huh,
Yeah,
huh? That really threw me off. I know a lot of people got really emotional about that, but I was just like, how did we get here?
I I couldn't
And
feel
how do we
emotional
move
about
on
it.
from this?
I did not feel emotional. I felt like, what am I listening to?
Same. And then Eldest Daughter, I think the bridge in Eldest Daughter, I think is beautiful. I think that is one of the best parts of the album. But the song, the rest of the song,
Yeah.
why is she singing about like being woke and hashtags and stuff? What?
That
What?
pissed me off actually. As the eldest daughter, I wanted it to be emotionally devastating. I wanted it to be
Same.
emotionally devastating. I wanted it to be like really deep because I thought it would be something like, as the oldest daughter, there's all of these expectations you put on yourself of like, you really want to cheat and you really want to like you I think a lot of eldest daughters, even if they don't become professional photographers, they become the family photographer. They become the person who sort of holds the family history and like keeps that safe because that's what I've experienced as an eldest daughter, and it's what I've experienced with my friends who are also eldest daughters. And it kind of felt like she sort of slapped that title on to like build this expectation that it would be deeply emotional,
Yeah,
and
to
then it
like lure
wasn't.
people in. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt
I'm
like a
looking at the
marketing
lyrics.
tactic.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lyrics. Just the first three lines. Everybody's so punk on the internet. Okay. Everybody's unbothered till they're not. Right, well, yeah, kind of. That is, yeah.
That's how it works. Yeah.
Every joke's just trolling and memes. You've lost me. I am gone.
The
At
second
that
she
point of the
said
song, I
memes,
was like,
yeah.
nah,
When someone like Taylor says memes, you're like, are you trying to make this album for preteens?
right? Like when you're so well known for how good of a songwriter you are, especially because the whole of the internet hates you as a performer and doesn't think you're a strong vocalist, the one thing you do kind of across the board have is that everyone can appreciate that you write your own songs.
Yeah. And
What the hell is
Father
that?
Figure, I'm going to go off on this one. Father Figure, there was so much hype around her of, oh, she sampled George Michael and she got all the special permission. And I listened to it and I was waiting, and she just says the words Father Figure. There's no sample.
No, she uses the beat. She
Does she?
uses the beat. Yeah, the backing track is Father Figure by George Michael.
Did she slow it down a lot then? Because it does not sound anything like the father figure I grew up on.
No, it's the same track.
Okay, I'll shut up then.
She's just layered it with so much of her own stuff that it gets lost. You have to go into one of those programs that like takes every single part of the music out,
Okay,
and then you get to this one part and you're like, "Oh, I can hear it now." And then you put everything else on top of it and you're like, "Oh, it's gone."
right. Because I tend to be someone who's very good at picking up on samples. I credit my father for this. He really trained me to be this way. Is that I can listen to a song, close my eyes, and go, "Yep, it sounds like this one." And for that, I spent a lot of the time wondering where that sample was. Um, and also, if you're going to sample a song like Father Figure, I expected it to pack a punch. I really
Mhm.
expected it to be quite like I don't know, she. I find it very interesting that a lot of articles would talk about how it captured the spirit of George Michael. And I went,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, I don't know.
where?
That one threw me off, but the whole album kind of threw me off because I was expecting so much more. And then also as well, to go from Ruin the Friendship where she talks about a sensitive topic of overdosing,
Mm,
and then that goes immediately into Actually Romantic where she makes fun of someone who does drugs.
yep, yep, exactly.
Okay, make that make sense. I don't really listen to Charlie XCX, which is the rumor. That is apparently who it's about. I don't know. I don't keep up with the drama or whatever. And I don't really listen to Charlie. But how can you go from having remorse for someone and having empathy for someone who has overdosed or taken their life from such a thing, and then immediately afterwards say Coke's got your brain? Direct mention of drugs immediately after saying drugs suck.
Yeah, that one really, I was like, I think actually romantic could have been really cute if it wasn't for that. I think that had it not had those snarky moments, had it been like, I've heard you've been talking about me, like, you can't get my name out of your mouth, isn't that kind of romantic? But I think those two concepts don't match. It's either you're going to do diss track or you're going to go actually romantic. I feel like mixing the snark and the actually romantic makes it kind of like you hate me, also you're obsessed with me. It kind of feels like there's an ego battle of like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like that song to me feels like calling someone else big headed while your head's bigger. Um,
I just, yeah, and then you've got songs like Wood. I just really didn't need to know that.
yeah,
I get it. It's like a fun, upbeat, like kind of jokey. I get it. But you can do that without doing that. And a lot of artists do that without doing that. And I think as
yeah,
well, with Taylor, where she's never done it before, I think that's where a lot of the shock factor is. If she'd have done this, if there was a pattern of it throughout her older songs talking about her sex life or her boyfriend's body parts, then maybe it wouldn't be so like rogue. But you've done like this is what her 12th album or 13th album, I can't remember.
well,
This is her 12th album, and you've suddenly got an entire song about how big your boyfriend's thing is.
yep.
Why?
I hate that because in my opinion, and I understand that with me there is a certain level of conservatism. Um, I don't there is and there isn't because it's interesting that I can listen to Chapel Roan, knee deep in the passenger seat, and I'm like, hee hee, that's funny. And then I listened to that one, and I was like, ew. I was like, girl, no, like I don't need to know that. That is disgusting. Um, I my opinion was okay, that this diary's been open a little too long. Let's just close that and throw that away. I did not like that. And
It,
every cousin I have has been like, you listen to Taylor Swift, you know, defend this song. And I've been like, no, I'm not defending that song just because I
yeah,
listened to the album.
I just think that the because she said she wrote the album while she was on tour because she wanted to like train that muscle, right? I think that was the phrase she used, where she wanted to train her songwriting muscle to make sure that she could still write songs whilst doing these like big long events. I don't think you can. Like
No.
I don't think that album and then she released the album and she was doubling down on like this is everything I've ever wanted to write. This is the best I've ever done. And I just know that you're lying to yourself because you know that's not the best you've ever done and you know that's not your strongest work. It's okay that people enjoy it. It's no doubt there are going to be some massive fans about this album, and I do like a couple of the songs, and I do like a couple of the lyrics, but overall, it's like you just didn't need to do that. We had plenty of songs. We had all of these Taylor's versions that came out. We had Midnights. We had Torture Perks Department. You really could have just done your tour and taken a break and like stepped back and been like, whoa, wedding time, right? You really did not need to like prove that point to yourself or to us because you are a good songwriter. You can do that. That is one of your best skills. And you definitely have enough money to be able to live for a little bit without releasing a new album.
Hmm.
And you could have really sat with that and really created something better.
I I pre-ordered The Life of a Showgirl,
So
and I have not pre-ordered Kiss All the Time Disco Occasionally by Harry Styles because The Life of a Showgirl showed me that this can be one of your favorite artists and just listen to all of the singles. And I my opinion now is listen to all of the singles, and then when it's still sort of pre-order time, then maybe pre-order it, especially if they're like talking about tour. You know, you've got to pre-order to get tour codes sometimes, but listen to
you
all of the
don't,
singles first.
you never have to. Never, ever, ever have to. Legally, they can't do that.
Okay.
There legally always has to be an option of no purchase necessary.
Well, there you
Fun
go.
fact.
Fun fact for our viewers. You do not have to pre-order the album until you've heard the whole thing. And that is exactly what I'm going to do because The Life of a Showgirl, I was like so excited with all of the visuals. I'm like, this is going to be huge. And then I went, oh, yeah.
And I still think visually it's a stunning album. I still think the artwork and the pictures and everything around the album is stunning.
Yeah.
Just not the album itself. Yeah, I was just expecting more of a, especially because she said she was writing it on the Eras tour. I was expecting more of a behind the scenes, blood, sweat, and tears type
Mm,
creative album about the life of being on tour and the exhaustion that comes with that and the intense routines and all of this stuff, or just kind of all in the songwriting, and how life is so different when you're doing all of that. But it wasn't. It was about some beef from years ago and how big her boyfriend's is.
yeah. I wanted
Okay.
songs like I wanted something about like the mother-daughter sort of okay. Think about the relationship with the mothers and daughters where like the momager. I wanted something that sort of explored having her mum with her on tour. Um, and I wanted something that some sort of like song that capture what we had in like the Eras Tour documentary where she's in the dressing room with Ed Sheeran or with Gracie Abrams or with Sabrina Carpenter, sort of like brainstorming at like that pre-show feeling that I get what you mean of like wanting that behind the scenes. I feel like I thought that the life of a showgirl was going to feel very open diary, but not on like day-to-day life, like open diary on the heightened version of what it means to be a touring musician.
Mhm.
Um, and I was a little disappointed that I'm like, this doesn't feel the life of a showgirl. This feels like the life of a crumbling girl group.
Mhm.
Um, the life of someone who never really stopped thinking about high school.
Yeah. And I think that, because that's been a critique of hers for quite some time now. But I think when you are in your 30s and you're still talking about a relationship that you had when you were 14,
Mm.
that's crazy. That is crazy.
I mean, I'm 21 tomorrow, and if someone was to hand me a piece of paper and say, "Can you write about your boyfriend that you had in year 12?" I would be like, "Who?" Not because of the fact that I've forgotten him, but because of the fact that like he isn't the same person, I'm not the same person, and that is just like I
I
don't want to.
genuinely don't remember who I was dating at that time. I
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to tell you the people's names that I was dating. I genuinely would not. I had one long-ish term boyfriend in secondary school that I remember. I had other partners, I had other boyfriends.
Mm.
I don't remember who. I don't remember their
I
names.
honestly, I only remember boyfriends because of the fact that they are respected creatives.
Mm.
I seriously, there could be some guy who I was interested in at one point that someone's like, "Oh, remember when you were interested in this guy?" And I'd be like, "Was I?" Like, um, mum said some story the other day, not at my 21st birthday, but right afterwards. She's like, "Oh, I could have told this story when you did that." And I was like, "I did?" And it was only like a story from 2 years ago. And so I do find it quite, it feels like we have a saying in our household that's like, don't poke the bear. Like, it kind of feels like she took a big stick and she's poking this bear. And then she's like shocked when she's going, oh my goodness, I brought up old drama and people have been like funny about it. Yes. Like, there's an element of, I'd love to see her tackle some more adult subjects that aren't her boyfriend's best features. Um,
Yeah.
he's a lovely guy. Why not talk about that? I really do struggle with pop music and pop culture in general, where the best thing about your significant other is genitals. And I don't even know if I can say genitals on YouTube. I'm probably going to have to say the best thing about your significant other is, but I don't know. Like, why can't you? Hmm, why can't you just like not talk about those moments that are so expected? I want to hear like I don't know. I want those moments that are relatable. I don't want it to be such a competition of like because these young girls that look up to Taylor are now going to base their relationship on how nice the bed feels. And it's not about that. I want like with the life of a showgirl, is there like that's got to be hard mentally to be in a new city all the time. There must be an element of sometimes feeling like not so much like an imposter. Well, yeah, an imposter, but also where am I? Like I know that if I'm traveling and I have layovers and stuff, that feeling of waking up and being like, I have no idea where I am. Like write a song about that. Explore something that hasn't been explored before rather than, you know, yeah. Well, thanks for watching this week's episode of Murder and the Mic. We hope you have a groovy week.